We looked at tools like extrusion, blend, swept, blends, sweeps, and revolves to create these conceptual mass models. Now let's take a look at how we can apply surfaces to these mass models, creating our schematic design, becoming closer to documentation. First, let's take a look at a couple of settings. In the Massing and Site tab, under Show Mass Form and Floors, there's a setting here to show the mass forms and floors. If I pick Show Mass by View settings, your mass will disappear until you type in VG for Visibility Graphics, scroll down and put a check mark in front of Mass, and then pick OK. So if you'd like the mass to show all of the time, you can pick Show Mass Form and Floors. Also, in the Modify tab, there's a tool called Join Geometry. If you wanted to join these mass models, you can move the model close. I'm just going to drag and drop it over here next to the other one. I could pick Join Geometry and then select one of the masses, select the other mass, and you'll see that they're joined. They're still separate masses, but they will create an intersection. So let's close out of this file, save it, start a brand new Revit file, and save it referring to the assignment instructions in Blackboard. Then go to the application menu and New Conceptual Mass. We'll use the Mass Family Template file, and then let's create a couple of levels. We can hold our Control-Shift down and then hold the left mouse button down and drag your mouse up and let go, and then Control-Shift again to select here the level and copy a third level. Your individual design might require more levels or a different height. I'm going to select the level 1, and then it's your choice what your design will be. You can use an ellipse, a rectangle, circles, or create your own. But if you do use a spline, you'll need to use a little line to connect the ends of the splines. I'll use a polygon and then left click the intersection here, pull my mouse out and left click, and then I'll select here the second level. You can use the same design that I'm working with, completely your choice. I'm selecting the second level, and then I'll pick the polygon again. And on the second level, if I go close to where the intersection would be of these two reference planes, you'll see those dashed lines that indicate the tracking vector. We're looking for the intersection. When you see the intersection here, you can left click and know that you're in the same coordinate just up on the second level. I can now pull my mouse out and left click, and then on the third level I'll create another polygon going to that intersection for that level, creating another polygon. Now if I select all of them and pick Create Form, I can pick Solid Form. Selecting an edge or a surface, I can pick X-ray. Using my Escape key, I can now use the Tab key to tab until I can select this profile, and then I'll rotate it 30 degrees. Then I'll select the polygon at the top and rotate that one 60 degrees. If we turn the X-ray off, you'll see that I'm starting to twist the shape. I can even select here the top surface and use the scale tool to pick in front of numerical in the options bar and type in 0.5 for the scale, and then pick a base point, which will be this center point, and see that any one of these profiles can be scaled to create an interesting shape. I'm using polygons. You can use rectangles, circles, ellipses, create your own. And we did talk about in the first video being able to here add edges and profiles. Once you've created your mass, you can go ahead and save that mass and then load it into your project. As we said before, this dialog box will let you know that Revit will automatically show you the mass because it's turned off by default. I'll go ahead and close out of that. Then go to the 3D view and pick Place on Work Plane. Roll the wheel back towards you and left click to place your mass in the Revit environment. Use your escape key. Use your escape key or pick Modify here at the top left to end the command. In order for us to create mass floors, we're going to create additional elevation levels. So we'll go to the west elevation, select level 2, pick the copy tool, and make sure you have a check mark in multiple. I'll left click here at the end of level 2, and then here you have a choice of pulling your mouse up every 10-foot increment, or pull your mouse straight up and type in 10 feet and enter, so that you have several levels based on your design. Notice that when you copy multiple times these levels, Revit won't automatically create these views in the project browser. One way to quickly create those views is to here select all of those views, go to the View tab, pick Plan Views, and then Floor Plan. Here we can hold our Shift key down and select all the levels and then pick OK. All of the views will be created automatically. I can select the model and move it so that it's centered. Or you can drag and drop these elevation markers. Going back to the 3D view, we can select the mass model and pick Mass Floors. Then put a check mark in level 1, hold your Shift key down, and select all the levels. Put a check mark in front of the last level so that they're all checked, and then pick OK. Even before we apply building materials, we can click in space, go to Schedules, and create a schedule of the gross floor area. Let's go ahead and pick Schedules and Schedule Quantities. And then for the category, we'll pick Mass for our mass schedule and pick OK. In this list of available fields, we might want to pick gross floor area and then pick Add, and gross surface area and pick Add, and then maybe gross volume and pick Add. To take a look at the area and volume of this conceptual mass, we can go ahead and pick OK. And this is our schedule. We'll be talking about schedules in other modules. Even after you create your schedule, you can use the properties to change the formatting and appearance and add fields to it. Because we created all of these levels, we have several views open. We can go to the View tab, and here we can pick Close Hidden, which will actually close all the windows that are hidden from this current view. And then we'll go back to the 3D view by either double-clicking in the project browser 3D or up at the top here or in the View tab. Okay, we're ready to apply faces. We can go to the Massing and Site tab and pick Roof. Verify that you'd like to use the basic generic roof that's 12 inches, and then select here the top surface, and then pick Create Roof. Use your Escape key. You can change the shading in the visual display at the bottom left corner to Shaded so that you can see your mass floors. Holding your Shift key down and using the wheel of your mouse, you can see that we added a roof material. And again, we'll be taking a look at roofs and walls and floors in a different module. Okay, there is no order of whether you put the roof on before the walls or the floors. I'll go ahead and pick the curtain system under Massing and Site, and then go close to one of the exterior surfaces and select that surface and verify that it's a 5x10 curtain system. Go ahead and pick Create System. If you wanted to change that curtain system, you would have to pick Edit Type and then duplicate that 5x10 to create a different size, and then apply that curtain system to your model. I'll select a couple of other surfaces and pick Create System, and then I'll go back to Massing and Site and pick Wall. I'll use the generic 8-inch, although I could change this to exterior ephes on metal stud, and then select here the other walls. It's your design. You decide on what type of material you'd like to use. Now we're ready to add our floor. You can pick Floor in the Massing and Site tab, and then we'll create a new floor. Pick Edit Type and pick Duplicate, and then type in VCT for Vinyl Composition Tile and pick OK. And then under Structure, we'll pick Edit. And then here under Material, by category, we'll select this icon. Scroll down to apply the material VCT, Vinyl Composition Tile, and then pick OK and OK, and again. And now we can go ahead and select the entire model. Only the floors will be selected. We'll change the offset of the floor to 6 inches to account for the material that might be on the outside and the mullion construction, and then pick Create Floor. Use your Escape key, and now if we go to Show Mass and pick Show Mass by View Settings, since the mass is off, you'll be able to see the floors and the material that we've applied. If your shape is very irregular and you're trying to apply a brick, you may get an error that will let you know that there's an irregular shape. Like this curtain wall system, I'll need to add a mullion to it, so we can pick Mullion and then All Grid Lines. You have a choice of which mullion to use, but I'll go ahead and select this curtain panel system, and then here Revit lets you know that some panels in this curtain system are slightly malformed, and the problem is most likely ignorable. So I'll close out of that. With all grid lines still selected, I can select this panel and select the third curtain wall system. I came back into the video here to show you that even after you modify the mask, you can update the faces. So here I can turn the mask back on, and then with the family open, I can tab to select the family or use the filter tool and then pick Edit Family. If you don't have the family open, when you pick Edit Family, you'll see a different view. To go back to the family, I could have used Control Tab to go back to the family also. So here I'm going to modify this in some way. I can tab to select this center profile and then maybe scale it by 0.75 so that it's a little bit different form. And then I can pick Save and Load into Project. Now it'll ask if I want to override the original mask. I can go ahead and pick to override the existing one, but it won't update the model. It'll override the mask that's in the project browser under Families and Masks if I wanted to use it again. So what I'll need to do here is to tab to select the mask and then pick Related Host and then Update Face. It might take a minute to regenerate, but what it does is it takes the new mask form and updates all of the faces that were applied to it. Now I can go back to Masking in Site and turn off my mask by picking Show Mask by View Settings. If the mask is still on, that just means that under the visibility graphics, there's a check mark in front of mask. I can go ahead and do an undo to go back to the original design that the video will use to create the sheet. Now we're ready to set up for our sheet. Create the best 3D view that represents your design, and then in the project browser, highlight 3D, right click, go to Duplicate View and Duplicate, and then select here the copy of the 3D view, right click and pick Rename. We'll name this 3D Model View and pick OK. And then find the elevation that best represents your design, and then right click on that view and rename it to, in this case, East Elevation. Yours might be a different elevation, and then pick OK. Then find a level that best represents your design. If it's the Site view, you can highlight Site, right click and pick Duplicate View, and then we'll select these elevation markers, right click and pick Hidden View Category. Also rename this view by highlighting it, copy of the site or one of the levels, right click and pick Rename, and then rename the view either one of your levels, or in this case I'll call this, for our schematic design, Top View. And in order for these images to appear on our sheet, we'll need to change the scale. We can change the scale of this view to 1/16 of an inch equals a foot, and then change the 3D model view to 1/16 of an inch equals a foot, or whichever scale will work the best for your sheet. We can double click on our elevation and change that scale to maybe 1/16 of an inch. And you'll know right away when we start to bring these onto the sheet what scale you need. You can highlight sheets in the project browser, right click and pick New Sheet. You can pick Load and scroll down to Title Blocks and find the sheet that best represents your design. I'll select 22 by 34 and pick OK. Now I'm ready to select my image in the project browser, like the 3D model. Hold your left mouse button down and drag and drop it into your drawing sheet. And then drag and drop your elevation and your top view or one of the levels, along with your schedule that you created under Schedules and Quantities. We'll find the math schedule and bring that into our sheet. Using these small arrows, we can adjust the column sizes on our schedule. Okay, this size sheet may not be appropriate for your drawing, and you might decide to change your scale from a 1/16 of an inch to something smaller. This is your design. You can create your own model. The last thing we'll do, though, is change the name of this sheet to Schematic Design. And then the owner will be the owner will be your name. And the project name can be 3D Mass Modeling. Notice in the project browser under Sheets, you've got a sheet that's Schematic Design.